at Insight, we unlock the power of people and technology. Trends like generative AI are taking flight, and it's a very impressive piece of technology, but there's really not much to it if you don't have the innovations of people behind it. So today, I'm thrilled to be joined by a panel of very ambitious, very innovative and creative, technical and sales-oriented professionals who have taken generative AI to brand new heights. So guys, welcome.
Thanks.
Let's get the crowd to understand who you are. Let's do a quick round of intros.
Hi everyone, my name is Amol Asgaonkar. I'm the CTO for Product Innovation here at Insight. Help Insight capitalize and build solutions in a repeatable fashion. We have a lot of patents out there, so using those patents, building solutions for our customers.
Awesome, Amol. So my name is Eric Rewerts. I am the West Solutions Sales Director for Insight. So I've been here 15 years in a number of different roles. Currently, I'm supporting all of our all the solution sales that we have, all the solution offerings that we have to go to market with, help our clients transform their business. So excited to be here.
Great. Yeah, my name's Chris. I'm a student at Arizona State University right now. I'm a senior. I was an intern this past summer. Now I'm an associate data engineer, part-time while I finish my degree. I was working on a team with Eric and Michael Griffin on a really awesome tool powered by artificial intelligence. And I'm really happy to be continuing working on the same general area while I finish my degree.
Welcome, welcome. So guys, generative AI has been on the lips of pretty much everybody. I feel like we can't stop talking about it, but aside from just the excitement of it, everyone's looking for really powerful use cases. How do we actually put this tool in ways that is going to help us save money, reduce costs, everything? And I understand that your internship actually led to a pretty exciting solution. So let's just set the stage. Where did the idea come from? What problem were you trying to solve? What happened?
Yeah, so part of what we do, my team does with our clients is really try to understand their business challenges and their outcomes. So they're doing things like reading 10Ks and 10Qs, earnings reports, news feeds, RSS feeds, so they can really understand like the client's behavior, the things they're dealing with, the opportunities, and then ideally they take the solutions we have and match those up and go and offer that to the client and say, hey, I understand you have this challenge, and so and here's the solution we could do to help you solve for that. That process of like gathering client intelligence takes time. It's like there's lots of reading. If you've ever like seen a 10K or 10Q, a publicly traded company, it's a lot of documentation, a lot of words, a lot of numbers, and we've spent some time internally like trying to train on how do you read that and decipher and really pull out the nuggets of opportunity to go approach the client with. And so when we had the opportunity to, from an internship perspective, Michael Griffin and myself both had the opportunity to have some interns this summer. And so we combined forces and said, hey, what if we put together a tool leveraging generative AI, because it obviously was the big thing everyone was talking about, and obviously we know what it can do from summarization, comparison, and what its benefits are. And how could we take that and help shorten the time frame that a rep would need, or that the rep would need to go and find out that information to get to the actual thing or the outcome that they would go and apply a solution to go help solve for the customer. And so, so we had this idea of like, well, the 10Ks and 10Qs are all public. It's all public information. They're publicly traded companies. They file these things, the SEC, and it's on their websites. So it's data we can pull and put into a database, and now we just got to build a tool to go scrub it and summarize it and apply some intelligence to it and give us the information we need. Obviously, like as a member of the business, I'm not a technologist by any means. I don't get into like Python or any of that stuff. So I'm kind of up here in the clouds, and now I have to get a team to go put that together. So we had these interns, and they were all four were data scientists, and so Michael and I said, well, they're data scientists. Let's put them on this project. And so in walks Chris and his three
cohorts
who
read 10Ks on the weekends.
Yeah, who do that all the time and build
Yeah.
generative AI tools like all the time. So yeah, and here they come, and we presented them on day one with this opportunity, and I'll let Chris kind of take it from there from the story perspective.
I'm dying to know, when you were presented with this this problem and
Yeah.
this desire for a solution. What was your reaction? Again, I joke that reading 10Ks, but like, what was your reaction when this was the problem you were given to solve?
Yeah, so well, obviously we were all aware of this whole generative AI explosion, and the first day of our internship, actually, like I think it was maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. I've been on my computer for an hour, and I had a meeting with Eric, Michael, and the 3 other guys in my cohort, and they presented the idea, and it was very daunting, kind of terrifying. I've taken Python classes, and I've learned stuff in school, but this was like a big project that I have never worked on anything like it in the past. But myself, Max, Porter, and Steven, we were presented the problem, and we were set out to find a solution. So essentially, the way we thought about it was everyone's familiar with ChatGPT. Everyone's used that before. And so we wanted to make a chatbot where someone could just ask the questions they're looking for, or the answers they're looking for, and be able to get that information as fast as possible. So that's exactly what we did. And we had a huge database filled with all of these public financial reports, and we created this very easy to use, straightforward chat interface. And you could ask questions, like what are some of the challenges a company is facing, or what are some things that the company is investing money into, and stuff like that, and be able to extract that data very, very fast.
Can you explain to me a little bit about the back end? Like, how does something, like the concept seems simple enough, and it's really how we use ChatGPT today, is you ask it a question, you expect an answer. But in order to get specifically the information that you wanted, what went into that process?
Yeah, so as some people may have seen, GPT's cutoff date is around, I think, 2022 right now.
Yep.
And so if you were to ask something with a specific company's most recent financial filings, it would have no idea. It would probably give you some kind of answer, but it wouldn't be the most recent information. So that was definitely the biggest problem we wanted to solve, was how can we actually use GPT to help us with recent information.
But then using a conversational agent, we wanted our sales teams and other teams, or even delivery teams, to understand the customer better. So then they would ask questions to this conversational agent, and they would get those answers. So, but to get to that point, like, how do we actually get it to work, right? So that is where, if you go to using Edgar API, you get the latest 10K, 10Q documents from SEC. And then we have to index those documents and chunk them, break them apart, and then vectorize them, and then store them in a vector database. And that is when we are now in a position to go and do similarity search. And when we say, what are the challenges for XYZ? That is when we say, okay, I'm going to vectorize this question as well, and go and find similar content in the vector database that we've already used, or index that data in. Then get that data, summarize it, and then provide that answer back. But that's just one part. They actually took it a step further. So Chris, how did you match it up with the solutions as well?
Absolutely. So we were able to extract that information, but we weren't done there. We wanted to be able to also analyze some of the Insight's past client history and some of the solutions that Insight offers, to actually draw comparisons and find similarities between the information that we've extracted and what we've already done in the past. So that's what we did, and we took the same process of breaking down these documents into chunks and analyzing them, and we basically prompted the chat agent with something along the lines of, now that you've extracted these, maybe call it 3 challenges from this data, now read through all of this information from Insight and see if you can find some similarities, and then recommend what solutions you find best fit for the information that you extracted. And so that was definitely the point in the process where, like, this is really useful.
The light bulb went on.
Yeah, the light bulb went on.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
Oh man, well, the whole project was about 8 weeks. The internship's about 10 weeks, and I think we wanted to have a decent MVP around 8 weeks. So I think we probably started working on that aspect of the project around the halfway point, probably.
Yeah.
I think it was around 4 weeks.
Yeah, we started seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the third thing too was, and it was we would call it the icing on top moment.
Right.
Was this?
Cherry on, yeah.
The cherry on top moment. It's icing on top. Cherry on top
Cherry on
moment
top.
was this. Was being able to actually, as a third step, was pushing a generate PowerPoint button, taking both pieces of information and throwing it into our PowerPoint that's Insight branded that a rep can just take to a client meeting. And so it's like, it was really, I told the team, I was like, just wait until you push that button and the leadership sees this. They're gonna go, what? Because it really takes all the work out of it. It gives you a, so they did that. They they actually created a third step, which was the final step, which was, now that I have both sets of information summarized and compared and I got answers for you, generate PowerPoint, and it took those and it put them side by side, and it literally said, client challenges, line down the middle, Insight solutions on the right.
So tell me, briefly, what was the old process for a salesperson from start to presentation, and then now what is the new process?
Yeah, so new process coming soon. The old process would be a rep, and I'll give you an example of where this actually worked. So, and how is one of the things that we did to prove out the model too. As a real world example. So we had a really phenomenal opportunity this year to help one of our best clients solve a significant business challenge, like very, very significant, one they were reporting to the street. And so our rep did the due diligence of understanding that there was a challenge because they had listened to the earnings call, they read through the 10K and 10Q and understood where the revenues were flowing and what was missing as a result of them not being able to solve for this specific challenge. And so that took them, let's say, like a day, like probably 2 or 3 hours to kind of go through that, and then validation with the client. Hey, I read this. Is this true? Yes, great. Okay, let me put a PowerPoint together and put all. So you're talking about like a day or two of work in between like all the other things they have to do for all the other clients, and so obviously our reps did that last year, and it led to us closing a very strategic and significant project in helping our clients solve a significant problem they had, in which we take a significant amount of pride. I've said the word significant a lot. A lot of pride in. And so what we did was, one of the first test cases was, we were like, let's apply that client to this and let's see what happens. And so we did. We pulled the 10K, the one that the rep actually read.
Yep.
We pulled that 10K, which was from the fall of 2022.
Yep.
We put that into the database. It was chunked and vectored and all the things that, I'm a technologist, you guys are teaching me all this. And it gave us, it actually pulled 3 challenges. We said, give us the 3 challenges. It gave us the 3 challenges, and 2 of them were actually the things that the rep identified. 2 of the 3 were the things that, this very specific things, not just in a general sense, like very specific, called out the things that like you would have to go address that the client's facing. And then, click the button, and 3 or 4 seconds later, it pulls up, here's some solutions. And oh, by the way, this is also a really cool part of the feature they were working on, getting to, was not only did it say, here's something you can go, a solution you could sell, but here's a case study. And like they were getting to a point where you could actually click the link, and it would open up that case study. And so now you had multiple artifacts. You had a case study, you had and then the third thing was generate a PowerPoint. And so we did that with this client, and within like less than 60 seconds, we had everything we needed to know to go to a client and have a board level conversation, like that would show that we truly understood their challenges and the outcomes we want to achieve. And what took 2 days now took less than a minute. So it was amazing.
You kind of touched on this with the data aspect, but what hurdles did you have to clear to figure out a solution to this big problem?
So one of the big problems that we did face was, we were using the GPT API to actually access that generative AI ability, and we were running into problems with the token limit. So there's some token limits on the public APIs, and we were taking in documents that were, some of them were 200 pages long. So not only was it kind of costly, but we were hitting the token limits almost immediately, because we were breaking all these documents down into smaller chunks, feeding all of these chunks in, and it was just not working. So we had to be a little bit more selective with the chunks that we wanted to use to extract the right information. And we did that by making the chunks a little bit smaller, and we also removed a lot of the overlap. So there would be this overlap feature where you could take the end of one chunk and the beginning of another. We made that a lot smaller. And then we also got a little bit more precise with the information that we wanted based off of a similarity search. So there is a setting that you can adjust when you're building out some of these applications called temperature. And if you lower that down, it will actually be a lot more accurate in the information that you're trying to extract. So that allowed us to be much more precise with the information we were pulling out and get past those token limits.
And you knew all of this, of course.
Yeah, well, and that, you say that jokingly, I know, right? I had no idea. They had no idea, like either. Like this, they didn't, like coming into this, they didn't build any, they had never done this before. So like the phenomenal thing that I'm just still in awe of is that we gave them this challenge. They actually leveraged like GPT to go learn how to do some of this stuff and how to so they leveraged the tool that they were going to create to go learn how to do this. And a group of 4 interns who just were learning data science at school, who had never built this before, learned about all this stuff within a matter of within like 3 or 4 weeks, we had an initial product, and they were like coding and everything. It's phenomenal, like the level of acceleration that not only what we can do to go help clients with, like how we can help accelerate their business, but just how quickly you can accelerate your own learning capacity, like leveraging these tools. It's phenomenal.
And such a great proof point that the solutions and innovations can come from anywhere at any level.
Right.
Amal, I'm curious, because you are a technologist, what was your response to this?
Oh, this is, when I looked at it, first of all, it was a really good solution, right? It adds value in using the technology for what it's built for, right? You're not trying to use something that's new and come up with a solution for a made-up business use case. There was a problem that we identified, and then the right technology was selected to solve it as well. But I think during their experience, what I also noticed was from a technology point of view, the difference between GPT 3.5 and 4, and when you ask certain questions, how it actually responds, right? So some of it, people will say, oh, it's a hype, it doesn't matter, it's not useful, it's going to die down. In my personal opinion, I don't think that's going to happen. It's not going to die down. As long as it's used for the right use case, and we know how to use it, clearly we do, I think it's going to add a lot of value. Especially, this is a perfect use case. Now, if you build on top of it, imagine a single pane of glass kind of an interface for a customer intelligence app, where you go in and say, I want to research customer XYZ, and it brings in every information, data point, summarized, so you can walk in and have a really intelligent conversation with the customer, understand what their pain points are, and then bring the right solutions to the table as well. And now if you want a formal presentation for it, you have that. If you want to create contracts regarding that, you can do that as well, right? So that's the power of, you have to start somewhere. Once you prove it, I think you can build a much, much, much larger solution around it as well.
Yeah, I want to hit on a couple of things here that's really important. So one is, because we operated in more of a skunk work type fashion with this, the data that they had access to was public facing data. So they didn't have any access to internal, like case studies that we couldn't, because we have a lot of case studies that we don't put out to the public because of NDA or whatever. So they only had access to public facing case studies, public facing information. So if you think about what Amal said, the power, where this could go, if you start to now use our actual data. I mean, the team that saw this, those sales were blown away just on the public data they had access to. But imagine if we had access to our database on client buying history and vertical trending from Gartner, and being able to tie all that in. We would talk about this a lot, like if we had them for 2 years, a year essentially would say the North Star of this project would be like a Netflix recommendation engine. So you'd open up the application, and then it says, because they bought this, here are the things they should buy next. And it would be like that. Like, you could really get it to that point, and it would be very dynamic because it was always pulling new information in. into the database. So you could get it to that point eventually. Like that's, and then tie it into a lot of the work that Amal's working on too, to start to bridge the gap from sales to putting proposal work and that type of stuff together, and the stuff he's working on.
Did you ever think that IT would be working this closely with sales?
We actually, we like to work closely with sales, because at the end of the day, from a delivery point of view, we have to deliver what is being sold, right? So that relationship is always a love-hate relationship.
That's honesty.
But I think working closely is right now. I think that's a proof point is when you work closely towards a common goal. How we can optimize our own operations, our own execution to add value back to the customer. So now when we're talking to the customer, it doesn't take long to come up with, hey, this is what we will deliver for you. It's like we know exactly what we can deliver. They know what we can deliver, what we are capable of delivering, because tools like these will actually match it up and say, this is what we can do, right? So they don't have to like, oh yeah, maybe we can, like, no. Here's a proof point. We've done this. Here's a case study. Here's a client story for that. Here are our offerings as well. And this is what we can pitch to the customer. So it becomes more streamlined, disciplined. And then from a delivery point of view, it makes sense because we already know what the offerings are. We've done this before. So it kind of brings it all together.
And I've seen a level of like enthusiasm as I've engaged with IT as well. Like there's been this level of enthusiasm that I've never had before either, which is, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that at our core, we sell something to a client. And the ability to impact that in a very real way becomes very powerful for anybody in an organization to want to do, to know that you're like, what you're doing is impacting the core thing that we offer as a company. And so there's been like this very strong like reaction, actually a really positive reaction of like, yes, like, like talking to our VP of IT and CTO, just his level of excitement on this, like, oh yeah, this is a great, he actually said, I had this idea and I'm glad you guys did a skunkwork thing without telling us about it and then put it forth. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I think that is where it also comes down to our culture, right? We believe that innovation can happen anywhere in the organization. So it doesn't have to happen in sales or in delivery or in IT. It could happen anywhere in any tier of that organization. And because of that core belief of ours, I think stuff like this actually surfaces back up and it has a profound impact on the business.
So we've been saying for years that data is the new currency of business. And then we sort of were drowning in data. And now it feels like we actually have a vehicle to make sense of all that data as long as it's clean and tidy. And you've developed, again, this really impressive customer intelligence application. Where do you see this going in the future? We understand how it can really benefit our teammates here at Insight and ultimately our clients. But could this translate to bigger and better things for our clients specifically?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a common problem, right? Having data clean and tidy. And if you have that, then understanding what that data offers you is a problem that's very common in the industry. And so solutions like this, when we scale them out, make it repeatable, can really have a good impact on the customers, because they'll start benefiting from this. Not just because we are using it and we are coming to them faster and better and all of that, but we could actually sell this tool itself to the customer once it's built out. And they would start to see benefits of that tool. So they can bring their own data in it, use that, ask questions around it, understand, and that democratizes access to that data. Of course, with different security levels and everything in place so that not everybody can see everything, but the ability to ask questions and get answers across the board without having to go to IT or the data scientist or architects and say, can you build me a report? No, I just need to go to this one place, ask a question, boom, I have this answer. And I think stuff like this, the solutions like these, are going to change how we interact with data going forward.
Yeah, we actually shared with about halfway through the project, we actually shared with one of our local clients what we were doing with the CIO, and he was so impressed with it. We're actually in a phase 2 of a project to help them build out a similar tool and application. So to Amal's point, like once it's production ready, we want to be able to have the opportunity to take it then to market and be able to scale it out to other clients. Because this would be a perfect use case to go to a sales or any organization who has anything to do with sales and say, we would like to help. We can help you get to intelligence faster on your client, so your sales team's better enabled. And so to be able to do that in the future with a tool set that can be scaled out would be fantastic. That's the goal, right? Yeah. But like we shared it with a client, and the CIO was all in on it and said, I want something like that as well for our business. And so I was like, one of my first phone calls was to the interns and said, guys, you don't understand what's happening here. We're actually also selling this thing now. Like, we're going to be selling something very similar to this to a client of ours locally. And it's a board level conversation, because if you talk to any CIO or VP of IT, they're all getting pressure from the board to say, what's our story? What is our generative AI story? What's our AI story, right? And the challenge, and Amal talked about it, is the IT team looks at this and goes, we have tremendous amounts of unstructured data out there, all these data sources, and I could go Shark Tank this internally and come up with 100 use cases, and most companies do. They have 100, 200, 300 use cases that are out there, and now they're going, how do I take all this unstructured data and find the use case that would give me the most ROI, and be able to go leverage a partner like Insight to go help me achieve that ROI in a secure manner. And so that's where the opportunity is in the marketplace, and it's really powerful. And to the point of like what we did here internally, with IT and sales partnering to now to go put this into production. Our client locally is doing the same thing. IT is working with the sales team to say, I can help you with this use case. We're going to get you more intelligent. Your sales team's more intelligent to sell more to your clients. So in a way, we're not just helping the client. Now we're helping the client's client, which becomes that's a whole different level of value proposition.
So Amal, where else are we using generative AI within Insight?
So part of our whole sales transformation as well, right, is getting the SOW back to the customer faster. And so we are creating a solution around generating statements of work based on a few questions that you answer. Select a customer, put in the challenges, considerations, duration, other preferences of the customer. You put that in and you hit generate, and it generates a complete statement of work for you, including what the deliverables are going to be, how long it's going to be, all the legal assumptions, everything is in place. Then you can actually make it go through a workflow for approval. It also does risk analysis. So once somebody edits that statement of work, which somebody will have to, it's not perfect, right? So, but it's a great starting point. They make those edits, it actually goes through a risk analysis phase where it understands what has changed. So if somebody changes the assumptions, which are not beneficial for Insight, it will actually flag it and say something changed here. So before you approve, please review that. And if it's okay, then you decide whether you want to take the risk or not, right? So that entire process where the SOW is generated within 30 seconds. And now it goes through the approval, does risk analysis in another 30 seconds or so, and you can approve and spit it out. So that's one use case.
It sounds like you're cutting out a lot of the soul-sucking work that Joyce often refers to.
Exactly. So it's if you start, whenever I used to write statements of work, and if I had to write it from scratch, the starting itself used to be like, I'm not to write this now, right? Just writing executive summary, like, great, I know what they want, but now I have to just type it in. It doesn't take time, but it's frankly really boring. So this essentially just does that for you, right? And if you have a great starting point for the deliverables, it also tells you, it's kind of hinting towards what have you done before. And so it's not generating it from thin air, it's saying, what have you done before? This looks very similar to the kind of stuff you've done, let's put that in. And now you have a starting point for that. So that's one use case. There are multiple use cases for generative AI. The other one that we've built, it's not in production, so nobody has access to it. A few people have seen it, is an emulation. So for example, if you had a really important meeting with a customer, a high-ranking officer within a C-level person, right? And you know that person to be really to the point, and they're open to conversation, but they're a hard negotiator. And you know their industry, you know what the problem they're facing. You could put all of that stuff in a form and say emulate. And when you do that, it pops up a chat agent for you as if you were talking to that personality. And now you could start your pitch to that personality, and they would push back as if it was that personality, right? So if you say, well, I would like to meet you in person, and at that point it would literally say, well, I don't think that's valuable right now. Tell me what you can offer to me right now. And if I think it's valuable, then we'll decide whether we want to meet or not, right? So it's that kind of level of interaction that you can get with that emulation. So you feel better prepared before going into a client or a customer meeting.
And that's so much better than a role play, because role plays are awkward.
Yeah.
Not everyone's good at it.
Right, and you can do this on the phone, you can be on a plane somewhere, and you can keep on practicing, change the scenarios, change the mood, change the personality, change the requirements, and come up with different personalities and still keep pitching.
I was wondering.
Right, so it'll summarize your conversation, it'll give you a score, it'll tell you the result, and it'll tell you how you should have improved. So if you keep your conversations vague, it'll say, no, you haven't answered my question. I've asked you for this. Do you have an answer for that? And if you don't, it'll say, see, you should have given me that answer. I would have approved that deal if you did. So that kind of
cool.
tools, I think, will be beneficial throughout the organization as well. And we can apply that to, a trainee who's coming on board, maybe apply that to a support use case, and ask where we are training people to answer questions. It could be someone who's just new to sales. Maybe I want to shift into sales. Then how do I do that? I'm not Eric. I cannot have a conversation with a customer like Eric does.
Sounds like Sales Academy is about to get a
Right.
major boost.
Yeah.
So it's great, right? So we can help our teammates reskill if needed. If they wanted to learn something new, great, do that. So imagine the different use cases we could use this tool in L&D. And then this could also be applied to our customers. So package this up and give it to our customers. The customers could use it to train their employees as well at that point.
It's so incredible, particularly because of that feedback that it provides. It's not like you're just arguing with a computer. It's
Right.
actually telling you, you should have said this or done this.
Right.
That is so incredibly valuable. And I could see that use case being applied to crisis situations, airline employees. I mean, how many
Exactly.
incidents
For
did we
support
hear?
now, the next step to that if I got an extra weekend sometime, was to include our client stories and our offerings into it. So there will be two modes to this simulation. One is I'm training. So while I'm typing, on the side of it, imagine on the pane, it will tell you suggestions like, hey, talk about this offering, talk about this client study or client story, right? And so that's kind of training yourself to say, oh, I know when this thing happens, I need to be able to mention X, Y, Z. And then you can switch it out as like, okay, let's do a test. And now you test, that pain goes away, and now you're on your own without guardrails and like, yep, I know this offering, I know that client story. Now it's in the back of the head, right? Mind. And then you can give answers very quickly and come up with the pitch faster. So any given scenario, you could just go in and start answering questions.
Taking away the bumpers at the bowling alley.
That's cool.
Brilliant. Chris, I've got one final question. You started as an intern and came out with this really impactful solution. How does it feel? You're kind of like a celebrity around here.
No, it's awesome. It's really cool. The whole experience was amazing, and Eric was great. Michael was great. The other interns I worked with were awesome. I was lucky enough to be here in Arizona, obviously, so I was able to come into the office. That was a great opportunity as well. And yeah, I had no idea it was going to go this far. I thought it was just going to be this small project that we worked on throughout the summer. And yeah, all this is happening now, it's really cool. And I'm extremely grateful to still be working here too, and just being able to continue working on artificial intelligence related projects. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. Congratulations. This is
Thank you.
really incredible work.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks.
your time.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks.